Hello, one and all, and welcome to the latest episode of PTV FC. After a 1 week hiatus, we are back and ready to talk all things soccer. I am Jimmy Bliss, and I'm joined alongside my wonderful duo of analysts, Ryan Johnston and Louie Pasculli. And before we guys get started, Ryan, Louie, let me know, how are you doing today?
I'm pretty good. It's been a long week. No PTVFC, but excited to be back for sure and get into some soccer. It's been a little while.
Yeah, I'm doing good. Jimmy, I forgot to take my allergy medicine today, and that wasn't very fun. The morning and then into the afternoon as it's prime allergy season. But I think both of you guys have heard from me saying last week, saying, I really want to record, but we didn't record because Easter gave everyone a little bit of time off. And I'm happy to be back, happy to talk about soccer. And I'm happy that we're recording this episode right now.
Yeah, what is prime allergy season is also prime soccer season. So let's dive right into this right now. So the Champions League quarterfinals kicked off this week as Real Madrid, Man City, PSG, and Chelsea each have the lead going into next week's second legs. So which tie stood out to you the most, and who do you have progressing in that tie? Louis, I'll start with you.
So for me, it was the Dortmund City tie. And one thing that made me angry was how I couldn't watch it. Paramount Plus, and I believe it's ESPN Plus have the rights to it. I was trying to find a stream, couldn't find it. And then I was keeping track and I was following the game through ESPN, the app. And so that's how I was watching the game. But for me, it was Dortmund did what they needed to do. They didn't win. City is one of the best teams in the world. I didn't really expect them to win, but they got an away goal, which was amazing. Now I'm going to talk about City first, though. I mean, the first goal that City scored, it was on the counterattack. Emre Can gave the ball away, and it led to a goal from City. And that's just City being City. They threw some nice passes together. And also, De Bruyne is De Bruyne, and he's the best midfielder in the world, and he made it 1-0. And then in the 90th minute, a nice cross was thrown in, and then a little pass to Phil Foden, and he slotted it home, which gave Man City the 2-1 lead. But the goal in between those two was the Dortmund goal. It was a stereotypical Royce goal. He was able to just place it past the keeper, and it was an assist from Haaland, which is good because he didn't score in this game, but I'm happy that he was able to provide an assist to Marco Reus. But it was an away goal. That's going to be absolutely huge because in theory, right, if Dortmund can defend at home and get a cheeky 1-0 win against City, then they're going to be the ones that advance on away goals because on aggregate, it'll be 2-2. But it's Dortmund that has the away goal advantage, so they're going to be the ones going into the next round. So I think Dortmund they've done what they needed to in the first game. They kept it close. They only lost by one, and they scored that away goal. It's going to be a really, really good fixture when Dortmund is home and they're going to be playing City. And I'm hoping I can find a stream for that one because I really want to watch it. Or maybe I'll just have to bite the bullet and buy ESPN Plus. But regardless, I'm excited to see this game. I don't even want to predict it because I just want to watch it and be in awe of both these great teams going at it head to head. But if Dortmund has a very good chance of winning, it's just that Man City is such a good team. So that's this tie that stood out to me. And I'm also looking forward to the next tie between these two teams.
Definitely a great choice, Lou. I've got to go with Real Madrid versus Liverpool, though. It wasn't exactly the closest game, and that's really why it stood out to me. Madrid kind of crushed Liverpool 3-1, and the stats they're not really looking close. Real has 16 shots with 7 on target, and Liverpool, despite having one of the best offensive trios in the world, only had 7 shots and 1 on target, and that's important because Liverpool had more possession. They had 55% possession compared to Real's 45, and when you have Salah, Mane, and Firmino up top, you cannot just have one shot on target. That's unacceptable if you want to be the best attacking trio in the world. And another important thing, Vinicius actually, he got a brace on the game. That's huge for him and his confidence. He's definitely not the most consistent shooter by any stretch of the imagination. Liverpool, they have really struggled on defense with basically their entire starting defensive line being out for the entire season. Obviously, Robertson and Alexander Arnold are in, but Van Dijk and Gomez, they're both hurt, and so it's just it's weird to see Liverpool going out this early, especially with the expectations that they've had preseason. They've been able to eke out some results in European play just by playing their toughest squad and having their front three really go off. But Real Madrid's just too much of a quality side for them to do that. They really need their full team healthy and fit. And it's this game really exemplified that, in my opinion. just how Liverpool, without how much mileage they've gotten these past few seasons, they just were not able to compete really with the quality that Real Madrid showed that day.
Yeah, so Ryan, you picked a rematch of the 2018 Champions League final, whereas the game that I wanted to highlight was a rematch of the 2020 Champions League final between Bayern Munich and PSG. So PSG did win this game 3-2. They scored 3 away goals, which are absolutely vital for this tie. And PSG really showed that they are a force to be reckoned with, and I believe they're the best team in Europe. And this only led me to believe that they really are the best team in Europe, especially after breaking through this Bayern defense not once, not twice, but 3 times over this game. Bayern wanted absolutely nothing to do with Neymar and Mbappe, who ran the show completely. I know Bayern had more shots and more shots on target, but the only stat that matters is the goal tally, and the 3-2 lead that PSG possessed after those 90 minutes is absolutely vital. And the game really changed when Marquinhos went out with an injury. He scored the second goal, and that really showed that PSG had everything in them to take down this Bayern team. But he did get out. I believe it was the 32nd minute, something like that. He went out with an injury, and it allowed Bayern to get back into the game because both of the goals that they scored were scored after Marquinhos was gone off with the injury. He was also the captain on the night, and I believe he's been the captain for most of the season as well. So to lose a vital captain like Marquinhos, absolutely crucial for PSG to have in a second leg. And hopefully they do have him, but if they don't, huge, huge miss. And I do think that PSG is going to progress. I think that they are the best team in Europe. I think that their front three in Mbappe, Neymar, and Di Maria is the best in the world. They're going to be in absolutely every single game. Just imagine being in the shoes of some of these experienced Bayern players like Jerome Boateng, Manuel Neuer, David Alaba, and you're shaking in your boots because Neymar and Mbappe are coming straight at you. That is going to be nobody's, preferred defensive strategies to have a one-on-one with Neymar and Mbappe. So Bayern couldn't even hold up against that. So I just think that they're too much for everyone. I think they're too much for this Bayern team who is a little bit older and slower now. So I do predict a 2-2 game and PSG to go through 5-4. Now moving on, we did have European soccer on Tuesday and Wednesday with the Champions League this week. But let's not forget about the European soccer that we saw played on Thursday, as the quarterfinals of the Europa League also had their first leg this past week. Manchester United, Roma, Villarreal all possess an advantage thus far, and Arsenal and Slavia Prague are deadlocked at 1 goal apiece. So, which tie intrigues you the most, and who do you have progressing in the Europa League to get to the semifinals? Ryan, I'll begin with you.
I got to stick with my Gunners. Definitely a little disappointed about the 1-1 draw, especially because I think that we should have pulled out with a win that game. I think that would have been a really huge win for us because I'm pretty sure Slavia Prague beat Leicester in the round previously, if I'm not mistaken. Um, I may be wrong on that, but either way, we didn't even start Aubameyang. Like, I don't understand the decision making. Why are we starting Lacazette up front alone in a 4-2-3-1? He doesn't have the pace for that in my eyes. And we basically subbed out our entire front four. I just don't really get, what Arteta is doing with that. And I think the whole squad needs to be better, really. It's unfortunate, we have some injuries. Martin Odegaard wasn't available. Kieran Tierney, that's a huge blow. He's been great for us at left back all year long. But, Nicolas Pepe got a goal in the 86th minute, and then you concede in stoppage time. Come on. Like you cannot be conceding to Slavia Prague in stoppage time. I don't care whether or not they beat Leicester. That's just unacceptable in my eyes. So I'm pretty disappointed with the draw, and it's definitely one of those series from these big English clubs, or these big clubs, big European clubs, even in the Europa League, that it is closest. And it's disappointing for me to say that because I think we should be ahead, but um, you know, we could lose this series. We could easily lose this series. They beat Leicester in the round previously. Leicester's a great team this year. They've shown it all year long in the Premier League, and frankly, we're not as good as Leicester this year. So we could really be out of the Europa League and have literally no chance at winning silverware this year, this early on, which is a bit disappointing in my eyes. But I'm really hoping we can pull it out. I'm really hoping we can pull it out.
And Ryan, that would be kind of unfortunate for Arsenal and all their fans. But I want to talk about Roma versus Ajax, which is an interesting tilt to me because I really like watching Ajax play. They have a lot, usually stereotypically, they have a lot of young talent, and there's no different this year with Tadic and players of that nature. And then in Roma, I was surprised to see is not in the top 5 in Serie A over in Italy. And usually they're always hanging around Champions League football or even Europa League football, but it's not looking like it's going to be the case this year. But I think they're going to make the most of this Europa League tie. I think that they're going to be able to do just fine at home. They won the last game 2-1, and they were on the road at Ajax. And although there were some questionable parts of that game, like Ajax had a penalty and there were a few close shots that Ajax could have capitalized on in which they didn't, I think Roma is going to be fine when they go and play, and Roma plays at home. So I'm looking forward to this. I think Roma is going to be the one that advances. I think they just have more firepower overall than Ajax does. And even Edin Dzeko, when he Dzeko, I always mess up his name, but regardless, he hasn't really done thus well in the Serie A, at least for me. It's not even in the top 15 for scoring the last time I checked. But when he gets going in the Champions League, and he scored a nice goal last game against Ajax, if he can get going for Roma, then he's probably their X factor, in my opinion. That's going to turn the game in their favor and just ensure them advance to the next round. So for me, I have Roma, and also a player to watch is our guy Eden, and not Hazard, but Eden, who plays for Roma. I think they're going to be the ones that move on.
Yeah, definitely two very, very juicy ties between the Arsenal Slavia Prague and the Roma versus Ajax tie. But I'm actually going to go back to my roots, and I'm going to talk about the Manchester United versus Granada tie. Now, Man United won 2-0, and they pretty much dominated the entire game from start to finish. I think that Man United has easily more talent than Granada. Even Man U's second starting 11, like on their bench and even their reserves, could beat a team like Granada. So I do think that this was pretty much expected. It could have been more than just 2-0 with all the chances that Man United had, but only 2 of them did hit the back of the net. So maybe they went a little bit easy. And they are 2 away goals too, which is also huge for Manchester United to have going forward, taking the game back to Old Trafford. However, there's a little bit of cause for concern for myself as a Manchester United fan and for Manchester United fans around the globe, because a few players are going to miss the second leg, with Scott McTominay, Luke Shaw, and Maguire, who are all out through yellow card accumulation. So that's half of the back line with Shaw and Maguire. So that's already going to be calling upon Eric Bailly, who has been very inconsistent in his Man United career, and Alex Telles, who also has been inconsistent through his Man United career thus far. Of course, this was just his first year here at Old Trafford, but nonetheless, been very inconsistent from those 2 players. With Scott McTominay out, again, you're going to be thrown in Fred probably alongside Pogba, and Fred, again, also very inconsistent this year. We've seen him put in a lot of good performances, but then we've also seen him play a few back passes that have been really bad, and he's not been great going forward. So again, those 3 players could be huge for Granada if they want to get back into this tie, is just to attack the 3 newcomers into the starting 11 with Fred, Bailly, and Alex Telles. But I do think that Man United is the favorite to win the Europa League, and I do think that they really proved it when they beat AC Milan in the last round 2-1, who everyone thought AC Milan was going to win. They were leading Serie A for forever, and Man U just went in there and they took care of business at the San Siro, won 2-1 overall. And they beat Real Sociedad 4-0 as well earlier in the competition. So I do think that Man United, easily the best team left in the Europa League, and I would be shocked, absolutely shocked, if they were to bow out in the Europa League, at least before the final. Nonetheless, we're going to move on to the Premier League now, and the season's winding down with just 8 weeks left in the season. We saw a flurry of transfer activity during the summer transfer window, albeit it was COVID. A lot of teams did find a little bit of cash in their wallet to be able to spend. And Ruben Diaz, James Rodriguez, Thomas Suchek, Edison Cavani all took their talents to England. So So that does bode the question, who has been your signing of the season in the Premier League so far?
Well, Jimmy, can I talk about a loan? It's not quite a transfer, but I think a player that has switched teams and has played really well is Jesse Lingard. Now, he's a player who didn't really fit in well at Manchester United. He didn't play up to par, and then he got loaned out, and now he's on West Ham. And in only 8 games, he scored 6 goals and then scored 4 assists. So that's really good for him. I'm really happy to see that he's playing much, much better at West Ham than Man United. And again, it's not really a transfer, but that's just a player that switched teams for me and who improved. And he's also a big part of that, of the reason why West Ham was ranked so highly in the Premier League early on. And they fallen to 6th, but they're only 2 points out of 4th place. So it's very possible that they can get back into the running for Champions League football, and it's going to be because of Lingard. Now, in terms of an actual bona fide transfer that I liked, it's got to be James Rodriguez on Everton. I always liked watching him play. I remember back when he was on Real Madrid, and I like watching his highlights because he's just a player that is so skillful, but he scores these great goals. I mean, his finesse shot is up there with the best finesse shots in the world. He's so good both in the midfield and also in the attacking third of the pitch. And since his time he's been on Everton, he's played 19 games, but he has exactly as many goals and assists as Jesse Lingard, which I found pretty cool because he's played more than double the amount of games that Lingard has. But he still had an impact for Everton. Everton's sitting at 8th, I believe, in the Premier League currently, so they're not in any place to play European football come this summer, come next year even. But I think he still had a good impact, and I was happy to see him not really revive his career, because when he was on Bayern, he still was playing at a high level, but now he's at Everton. He seems like he likes it. He's still playing well there, and despite his age, he's not showing any signs of slowing up. So I like to see him there on Everton.
Gotta love that choice, Louis, of Jesse Lingard. It kind of seems like he was treated by Man United fans the way that Jason Tatum is treated by Celtics fans. It felt like he was 19 or 20 for like 3 years, just because of how much they talked about how young he was. But for me, I'm going to go with Pierre-Emerick Højbjerg. He's really done bits for Tottenham in the midfield this year. He's pretty experienced in the Premier League because he played 3 or 4 years at Southampton before transferring to Tottenham this year. But, he's not a goal scorer or even really that prolific of a passer. He's only got 1 goal and 3 assists on the year, but that's really not his role. He's more of that defensive midfielder that's sort of set back behind the more primary attacking midfielders. And he really just tries to control that space between the midfielders, the more attacking midfielders in the defense. And he has done a great job at it all year. I think he's been really critical to how Tottenham has their run earlier this season. He was fantastic, obviously. And they're 6th right now, I believe, 5th or 6th. So they're still up there in the rankings. And he's been a huge part of that, especially because he's just been healthy all year long. He's played 30 matches for them this year. So that's the biggest ability is availability. Cut that. The biggest ability is availability. And, we see it in other sports like the NBA with James Harden and LeBron James. But Pierre-Emerick Højbjerg has really been that rock for Tottenham this year. And I think he's done a great job. I think he's definitely my signing of the season.
Interesting how the two of you both picked midfielders, and I'm going to round this out by also picking a midfielder myself. I do think that Thomas Souček has been the signing of the season. Now, I was going back and forth between him and Ruben Diaz, but I do think that Thomas Souček has been the best newcomer to the Premier League this season. Now, I know that he was on loan at the end of the 2019-2020 season, so you might say, oh, it's not a complete new signing, but nonetheless, the transfer did go through in this window. It was just over 20 million for Thomas Souček, and for a player of his caliber, he's been worth every single penny. Last year, West Ham came in 16th place, and by the time that we're recording this, they're in 5th place right now. They're knocking on the door of that top 4 right now, and most of that, I think, is down to Thomas Souček. He's in the midfield, and he's just been up and down the field for 90 minutes every single game. He's a midfielder that every manager dreams about. He's really the one that really holds the midfield line, he protects the back four, and it's just incredible to watch him every time he's out on the pitch. Man United is also linked with him, and Man U usually doesn't get linked with just anyone. They're the number 2 team in England right now, and they usually are linked with a good amount of young players, but also a good amount of established players. And Souček is one of those established players for me. He's bossed the midfield. He will be, I think, in like the team of the season, if that's what you want to call it, for the Premier League, where he's been one of the best midfielders of the season. And for him to have his first year in the Premier League be so successful is absolutely amazing for them. This year he's got 9 goals as a holding midfielder is almost unheard of. He also has 4 man of the matches, which midfielders never ever get man of the matches unless they score goals or they have like a hat trick of assists or something. So to have 4 of them as a holding midfielder is absolutely astonishing. I am really excited to see what the future holds for Souček. I know that he is 26 years of age, so he does have a few more years at the highest level. So it'll be interesting to see if he does continue with West Ham or if he goes on to greener pastures like a Man United, like a Man City, somewhere else in the Premier League that may be a little bit of a better squad than West Ham. But nonetheless, I do think Souček is the best signing of the season. But moving on to the final topic of the day, the Premier League Golden Boot race is heating up down the stretch with Harry Kane leading the way with 19 goals. Mohamed Salah, Bruno Fernandes, Patrick Bamford, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin are all in touching distance with just a few goals back of Harry Kane. So who do you think will end up taking home the Golden Boot this season? Ryan, I'll start with you.
I'm going to go with one of the people who's tied for the lead right now in Mohamed Salah out of Liverpool. He's level with Harry Kane on 19 goals, and he became level on Harry Kane after scoring today against Aston Villa. And, Harry Kane does have a game in hand on Salah. Liverpool has played 31 matches and Tottenham's only played 30. So he has that going for him. But as a whole, it's just hard to go against what Mohamed Salah has been able to do these past few years. And with people like, Mane and Firmino who just constantly assist him, even the midfielders, Milner constantly assisting him, just these past few seasons. His form is just, it's unparalleled really these past few years. So I'm going to go with the tried and true here. I know Harry Kane has been a great striker for these past few years as well, but he's been injured. He's been injured a few times this season, and it's kind of kept him from really reaching those upper heights that I think he can, because he could easily be the best striker in the world if he could stay healthy the whole year. Just the pace that he has on his goals is really, really impressive. All right, maybe not the best striker in the world. That title is going to stay with Lewandowski for at least a little bit. But, he's definitely up there. But I don't know. I don't trust Harry Kane's body. It's the same reason I didn't think Joel Embiid was going to win MVP earlier this year. I don't trust him. I think if he gets hurt or tweaks some muscle or something like that, he's going to be done for a little while. And I don't see that happening with Salah, at least not right now.
Yeah, Ryan, I agree with you completely. I think Mo Salah is going to run away. Well, I shouldn't say run away with it, but I think he's going to outscore Harry Kane when it comes down to these last 8 weeks of the season. Because right now, like you said, they're tied. He scored today, and I think he's going to continue scoring. He scored against Aston Villa. And I think he's very capable of outscoring Harry Kane as the season draws on. And I mentioned it in an earlier episode. I said that it's the front three of Liverpool is going to keep them in games, and Mo Salah has done exactly that. His scoring is the reason why Liverpool is in games and why they're winning. So I don't see, unless like the team loses chemistry or they fall into really bad form, I think that he's going to continue that throughout the rest of the season, and he's going to just edge out Harry Kane in terms of goals scored this season.
I do think that Mohamed Salah is a very, very viable candidate to win this Golden Boot. But right now, I got to stay true to Harry Kane. I do think that he is the best striker in the Premier League, and I do think that he'll be able to close this out. Now, Harry Kane has been one of the best strikers in the world for the past 5 or so years, ever since he broke out during the 2015-2016 campaign. And if you looked up if you looked up striker in the dictionary, a picture of Harry Kane would pop up. He is the absolute perfect striker in today's game. He is perfect with holding up the play. He's a great poacher. He's a great header. He's great with his right foot. He's great with his left foot. He's got enough skills. You don't really need him to do all that many skill moves, but when need to be, he does do skill moves. He's a really good passer. He's just the textbook striker in today's game. He's a natural born goal scorer, and he may be the leading goal scorer in the Premier League by the time that he retires. Right now, he has 162 goals in his career at the time of recording. The leading goal scorer is Alan Shearer with 260. So he's 98 goals shy. And for him, that's about 4 more years of him playing at a good level to reach that. He's top 5 all time right now. He's tied for 5th with, I believe, Jermaine Defoe. So I do think that Harry Kane is the cream of the crop in terms of scorers in the Premier League. And although Mo Salah will be able to push Harry Kane and maybe take the lead momentarily, I think Kane will be able to fend him off. But anyway, that will wrap up this week's episode of PTV FC. Once again, I'm your host, Jimmy Bliss. For my panel, Ryan Johnston and Louie Pasculli, thank you for watching, and we appreciate your support. Thanks again to our producers, Cooper Tennant, Mateus Bueno, Ben Harris, and Christian Gardner for making all of this possible. Be sure to tune in to next week's episode as we have you covered in all things soccer all year long.